Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again this afternoon for another webinar for the Project LAMPS webinar series. My name is Jorge Reyes, and I am the project coordinator for Project LAMP. As I have mentioned before in previous sessions, our team is helping growers through Project LAMP to get more value out of their lighting systems by providing horticultural and economical information, tools to manage the lighting for optimal crop growth and quality, and to maximize the return of investment. In this afternoon, we will learn about the economics involved in lighting and CEA, and this presentation is brought to you from the Department of Agricultural Economics at UGA. Please meet Dr. Ben Campbell, and he is an associate professor and extension coordinator at the Department of Agricultural and Applied Economics at UGA. His research focuses on the economics and marketing of greenhouse, nursery, and turf products. In Project LAMP, Dr. Campbell oversees the economic and consumer marketing components of the grant, with a focus on understanding the feasibility of implementing lighting technologies in greenhouses and consumer reaction to these technologies. So Dr. Campbell is also a member of the outreach team for Project LAMP. Dr. Campbell, the room is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ben Campbell. I am in the Department of Ag and Applied Economics at the University of Georgia. I got involved in this project, I guess, a year before we got funded with Mark Van Ursel, where we did some stuff looking at the economics of lighting. And then since this project was funded, I've been a part of it ever since, working on the economics. And so we'll go over a little bit of that, and also doing some consumer stuff on the side of externalities or the negatives associated maybe potentially with being having lighting around areas that are populated. So we're going to talk about that as well. So the economics of lighting, is it worth it? If you think about is it worth it? I can't answer that 100% for you today. I can give you an indication of some things to think about. And I can give you some things where we've looked at electricity costs and other parameters in different areas of the country to better understand if it may be worth it for you. As with most things, you need to look at this as an opportunity to think about what are the costs in your area, what are things happening in your area, what are the crops you're growing, what are the other things surrounding your production, to make a good assessment of whether the economics of putting in lighting, LED lighting, will make sense. So again, I can't tell you 100% it'll work out for you, but I can give you some things to think about and some stuff. We show you some stuff we've done and introduce you to a lighting calculator that we have that can help in that respect. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to look at return on investment, the probability of an investment turning some kind of profit. That's one of the big indicators we'll look at. What is the return on investment for putting in LED lighting? And so we'll go through sort of steps here. We'll talk about some caveats of things, what I'm going to be talking about. Then we'll go through and look at some detailed areas and some profitability measures. That's sort of how I'll proceed throughout the next few minutes. There is no one size fits all. Everyone's costs are going to differ. You may be doing something for $1 a square foot, and your neighbor may be doing it for $2 a square foot. It's just for how you run your business, how you do your production, how you do a whole sort of things can do that. Whether it be lighting cost, you got a deal because you bought in bulk, someone else did not, so your cost may be lower. Electricity cost, depending on where you are in the country, and it could be city by city. Your electricity costs are gonna vary from just a little bit to quite a bit difference. So given that, those are things that you really need to think about as you go through these calculations on your own, to think about, is it worthwhile to put in lighting? Difference in outdoor sunlight. These are some images we did when we first started this project, 6 years ago, to showcase sort of different areas. If you look at Athens, Georgia, the daylight, you'll see a bunch of little blue squares above that line, which indicates that they're getting throughout the year that Athens, Georgia is getting optimal lighting, or the DLI daylight equivalent that the intensity they need to have full growth. Where if you look at Seattle, there's a lot more blue dots under the line. So in Seattle, they have a lot more cloudy days, or days where the sun's not shining as much as compared to Georgia. So thereby, lighting may pay off at a greater respect compared to areas that are getting more sunlight. So depending on where you're at, will have a great influence on if this is profitable for you to do, or whether just continue with sunlight or maybe the way to go. You look over towards the left at all the little state maps, it gives you an idea of sort of how much sunlight's being. And again, in certain areas of the country, there are those areas that will benefit from lighting potentially more and have a faster return on investment compared to other areas. And so, given that, those are big indicators of what's going to drive profitability and the return on investment for putting in lights. Because it's not as simple as, hey, let's put them in and let's turn them on. We need them. A lot of places in the country, they get enough sunlight as is, and that benefit will take a lot longer to pay off if you don't turn them on as much, or can't get improve growth by putting them in. So first, the one more thing here: consumer perception, regulatory issues. This is something we often don't think about as we go about thinking about lighting or doing stuff in ag production. But putting in lights, there is an issue, and that is light pollution. There's a number of places that are having problems with this. This is a greenhouse facility in Georgia, Pure Flavor. Peach County neighbors say Pure Flavor greenhouse light problem is improved, but it's still a problem. I like this quote as far as one person. Once it gets dark, they shut the lights off until 1 a.m. At 1 a.m., they flick them all on, and you can see it from Mars. So again, that's one of those things with respect to that you really need to think about, because that's a cost that you're going to have to take into consideration, whether it be that you're put in blackout shades or some kind of something to block the light that is getting outside the facility, or maybe mandate in some places, or that you may do it because your neighbors, or the cost of being sued as far as if you are causing light pollution. So those are things we generally don't think about. On the right-hand side, my screen, 23 greenhouses violated by law. This is in Canada. They put in a law that's effective in January of 21, and basically it said that you had to do some sort of a light blockage to have LED lighting or have some kind of supplemental lighting going on. So given that, I mean, it could be here you're building in, thinking about you put in supplemental lighting, and then municipalities will put, or cities will put stuff in place that will say, hey, you need to make upgrades or something to minimize the impact on others. So those are things to think about. As you're dealing with the consumers, you're dealing with people who may not know what you're doing. This is a survey we just finished up. Do you know how the nearest greenhouse to you provides light to its crop? 45% say they're doing sunlight. 45% say I do not know. And you could put check more than one. So again, but you have by and large a majority of people said that they have no idea, or it's sunlight. And so given that, when you do put in LED lighting, they will probably they'll notice what you're doing, because that light pollution is there if you're not taking proper precautions. What knowledge level regarding different lighting sources used in greenhouses? Generally, a lot of people think they know about sunlight. They don't know about HPS or LED lights as much. In your opinion, again, natural sunlight, most people are very much in favor of natural sunlight. So anything that you put in there that may not be natural sunlight related, it could cause consternation amongst people living in your area. Again, part of this is being a good citizen. Part of this is being profitable. But again, being a good citizen and making sure that your neighbors aren't being affected by this is one thing. The way that you can minimize other alternative impacts of putting in lighting. So again, opinions of LED lightings, roughly 58% on the scale, that being roughly neutral. They're neutral to it. That neutral turns very quickly negative if there are impacts out there. So if you're not putting that cost in to make things so it's not impacting your neighbors, that's going to be a problem. Investment in supplemental lighting. Again, this is who thinks investing. So this is one of the things where the general public thinks that there should be investing by the government in other technologies to help. And by and large, that is because they want increased growing seasons. So again, with this shows basically LED lighting, as with other supplemental technologies, that there one investment in these type technologies, because by and large consumers or people realize there can be benefits, which is good news. So hopefully, if more work is done in this area, then maybe there's some other things that can be done governmentally to help with lowering the cost, or help within spur investment, or some kind of a incentive program to put these technologies in. Again, this is for either ornamental plants or where you're planting for food. By and large, people want that there to be investment, more investment in these areas by the government or by other entities to add these to production systems. Safety, again, as you put these systems in, you really need to think about safety. Because again, we have to think about your consumers, or can think about your people that you are dealing with. 64% on that 1 to 100 point scale. So we're leaning towards it is safe. It's safe for humans during production. This is safe across the board, which is good news with LED lights. That's one of the things that you don't want to have happen is people think you're doing something unsafe. So as you begin to think about should you be doing this from production standpoint, but also from the your neighbor standpoint or people in your area, by and large, they think LED lighting is safe. And so it's a good starting point to think about the cost of production there, put things in. Why the advantage of doing LED lighting, people in your areas are thinking it's better energy efficiency than supplemental lights, allows for year-round production. That's one of the big benefits. And I think people see that if you're doing this, that you can have year-round production, which means that it will help with either lowering prices at where they're buying the product, or help with food scarcity or food security. So again, there is some benefits that people outside of production think that are there for advantages for putting in LED lights in greenhouses. So again, there's some positive things happening, but again, it only takes some small things to turn the tide against you. We asked this a couple years ago in a survey, asked, what do you think about if there's light pollution? And we saw that basically at that point, when there was a some kind of light pollution or some kind of negative, you saw that people generally wanted to have regulations. We moved to wanting state regulations to combat or to limit the amount of light pollution. And again, light pollution is not the only negative that you might be thinking about, but light pollution is one of the biggest things that will impact your neighbors. And again, this is one of the things that could make something from profitable to not profitable, is by having a some kind of light pollution, some kind of negative externality that impacts your neighbors or impacts someone else in your surrounding area. And now then you have regulations where you have to do costly updates, where you have to do those things you could have done at the beginning to minimize those costs. So again, take into consideration where your business is, where your production facilities are, and how you're dealing with those people around it are really important. Because again, it may not be an upfront cost, but if you're impacting someone in a negative way, there will be a cost down the road that will now impact your return on investment or profitability, because you will have to fix it. Other things to figure out the economics. Can the market handle extra production? Again, this is my best of my artistic ability doing a supply and demand graph. Can the market handle extra production? So one of the main reasons is to do LED lighting or supplemental lighting is to increase how fast something grows. So again, can we get extra turns a year or in a season to have more product to sell? So one of those things might be that yes, we can, but if we're increasing supply on the market, then that might potentially drive down price. If there's not those markets if there's markets there, that now you have extra surplus on the market, so it could drive down prices. If you're getting a better quality, then are you getting a price differential to make it so it's worthwhile? So if you're adding better quality product, is there somewhere out there where you can get that price premium for the product you're selling, or get someone to purchase yours and someone else's? And if you're producing more, you're getting more turns, which I'll show you in a minute, that LED lighting can actually increase turns. Who is taking your extra supply? So if we produce more, who's getting that supply that we're producing extra? Where's it going? Can the market you're currently selling to, can it absorb it without negatively impacting the price you're getting for the product you had beforehand? So if it's not, then is it worthwhile in putting in lighting to drive up that increased production if you are getting a detrimental impact economically for having extra supply? So just things to think about before we get into price, before we get into the cost of putting in LED lighting, and is it worth it from the consumer angle or the people next door angle to the revenue generated? Is it something that you can find somewhere to retail it, that extra supply, or are you getting lower prices, or can you get better prices for higher quality product? Again, other things to think about, especially on the cost side. The cost of supplemental lighting. What are you paying versus what are you getting out of it? The cost of supplemental lighting inputs. You got to purchase blackout shades. The maintenance associated with supplemental lighting. All of those things need to go in to your cost considerations to think about as you're purchasing. The extra electricity costs. Again, area that you're in, does they have a break for a certain amount of, if you had a certain electricity usage, do they have a break? Or there may be a penalty associated with using too much electricity for the area. So now there's a penalty. If you're in areas that have to do blackouts because for the electricity use, are you going to get the benefit of using electricity when you need it? And that's one of the big things to think about. And that goes back to area of where you're at. Extra labor cost. It may cost extra labor. You may have to have a higher end labor to take care of the lights if you can't do it, or if you need to hire someone in. So again, what are those labor costs that may be extra that you're not doing now that because you're using a new technology, or technology is more sophisticated compared to sunlight, or you're having extra supply you need to deal with? These are all costs you really need to think about as we think about is LED lighting right for you? So is it worth it? Again, we're going to talk about some numbers. We're going to talk about some things here with respect to indication of sort of on an average, what's it like in different areas. Maybe, again, I put that out there just because a lot of this depends on you. It depends on your production, what you're doing. Are you building new? Are you retrofitting? What are you doing with respect to adding in LED lighting and other supplemental lighting? So this is something we did several years ago. I think this is one of the first things we did as part of this project. Mark Van Ursel, one of my grad students, and myself, looking at just on a theoretical basis, number of lettuce harvests per year with or without supplemental lighting. No lighting, we were getting roughly 11, starting the 12th. So the 12th went blank. The planting or production for a turn for lettuce. Then we add supplemental lighting. We jumped up around 14, starting the 15th turn, which that gives us roughly a 2 to 3 increase in turns a year. Now, is that worthwhile? I'll show you in a minute. Maybe, maybe not, but by and large, that's probably not enough to get you a to do a good return on investment for LED lighting. Whether we go to Seattle, Washington, where we have a lot less direct sunlight that will be applicable for using sunlight as part of the production system, we're getting that ninth turn with without supplemental lighting. With supplemental lighting, again, we're up that 14th, 15th, because again, with the supplemental lighting, that LED lighting, we are putting the amount of sunlight we need for every day. We're putting it there so we can get that 14th, 15th. So in this case, we're getting 4 or 5 more turns. This now puts us in where it's a lot more profitable, assuming we can sell that, but and a better return on investment because of we're getting more turns a year for this putting in lighting. So look at these two. The big thing, that gap between the two, you've got from basically 12 to 14 in Athens, and you have a 9 to 14 for Seattle, Washington. Again, that makes a big difference there. We look at the return on investment on gaining those couple extra turns, makes it worthwhile in certain areas. So Athens, Georgia, again, we're on that 12th growth cycle. Again, but if you're doing supplemental lighting, you're getting on that 15th growth cycle. Three more cycles. Whether if you're in looking at Seattle, Washington, you're on the 8th to 14th, 9th to 15th is where the beginning of those cycles. And you're looking at 6 more cycles. That's a lot of extra lettuce coming out. So again, can your market hold that? If it can, then thereby it's probably better ROI, more profitable to do it Seattle, Washington compared to Athens, Georgia, just for the amount of sunlight. It doesn't mean Athens is not viable. It just means that with respect to, you need to find some of the electricity costs or other costs there that drive down the cost side that may make it more profitable in those areas. So again, area plays a big difference in this. This is Athens, Georgia, looking at per acre LED install cost over 20 years. We appreciate it per year. The lighting cost per acre, the lighting cost, total square acreage. And then we have here with respect to price per square foot. So this probably doesn't take into account putting in blackout shades. This is just looking at cost of lighting and then looking at price per square foot that you're getting in revenue or price for your product. And again, at a negative 38% ROI, 30 cents a square foot return, you're losing $18,000 a year by putting as the extra cost of putting in that LED install cost. So again, in Athens, given this is not worth it. If we now say we're going to jump that up and do a 40 cents per square foot return price you're getting for your product, we're still down 8,000 square foot. I mean, $8,000 profit. And then, but if we go to 50 cents per square foot, that you're getting for your product, your price, then now by the additional profits of 2,000, now we're finally getting that return on investment for putting in lighting. So again, this is one of the things we're looking at what you're getting, not the cost, looking at the price you're getting, the revenue you're going to generate from this is one of the key things you need to be thinking about as you're doing it. Because if you're not, then I mean, and you're saying about what are the costs, then it's not going to be worth. You're not going to do the right calculations. So we got to look at the revenues here to get that return on investment here. Again, if we put in blackout shades, this probably goes negative again. You know, we're probably having to get a lot more per square price per square foot to make this actually feasible to do. Look at Seattle, Washington again. This is the same thing roughly. We put in there lighting cost. We had per acre install cost. We depreciated it. Look at total cost, and then we have price per square foot again, 30 cents. It's negative. So even a place like Seattle, you have a lot of potential for LED lighting to be turned on because you're not getting the sunlight you need every day. It's still at 30 cents a square foot. It is a negative 20% ROI at 30 cents per square foot level. If we go to 40 cents, now we're making some sense. Now $6,000 additional profit by doing this. That's something we can start thinking about as maybe being it's feasible compared to Athens, where we're still negative. This is quite negative at this point on what we're the cost benefit. Look at 50 cents. Now we're really in there additional profit. Now it's making sense. So again, take these costs into consideration with respect to what's happening on the price side or the revenue side is really essential. These numbers need to be your numbers. They don't need to be the ones I'm putting on the screen here. It just gives you an idea of where you're at and how much sunlight you get is going to be a big indicator of profitability. Because if you're using the lights extensively and you're driving up that amount of sunlight they need a day, if you're reaching that and you're generating those extra turns, then that's generating extra money or extra money revenues for you, which hopefully will do additional profit. So again, that's one of the big things here is looking at those revenues and what their costs are. So again, looking at net present value, that's the profitability and investment. So the current total dollar value of a future stream of payments. So again, what would you get now as far as those future payments be worth now? And again, what we did here is we did geographic coverage throughout the U.S. We did cities throughout the U.S. from the south, north, east, and west. And we did 4 different lighting fixtures that we selected. And this was given to us at the time, a year or two ago, to look at these lighting structures of these different installs for fixtures, the 250-watt system, 500, 680, and HPS. We varied a bunch of different things here. We varied efficiency, the power efficiency. We have varied the coverage rate. We also went in and did electricity costs from each area. So out of all these cities that we looked at, we did electricity costs for each one to generate the best we could estimate of the payback for these different lighting systems. And we did a 15-year planning horizon. That's what we worked with. We worked with lettuce and tomatoes, the 2 crops we used. So with this, you know, I'm sure there's other configurations, other things we could look at. This is what was given to us at the time and we worked on. I'm going to talk about a few of the cities and what we found. You know, with that, there is a whole paper thesis that's out there that can be shared with you that talks about every city we looked at. So there's a city here that's not. There's also a lighting cost calculator that I can share with you the address for that you can look at that has all the cities in, and you can go in and plug in your different lighting system you're interested in with one of these 4 plus other things, and you can get the planning horizon for those on that website. So again, I'm looking at that. You know, these are Athens, Georgia, and this is lettuce. You got the HPS, the LED installation at 250 watts and the 500 watts. You know, by and large, if you're looking at 30,000, they're broken down to 30,000 heads, 32.5 and 35,000 heads of lettuce rolling through at different price per head. You know, at $1.75, you're breaking even on the. You're getting a positive NPV at at $1.75, you're getting for 30,000 heads for HPS. Where that if you're $1.50, if you're 250 watt, and a $1.75 is the break-even price there for a 500 watt. So again, the red areas are things that are taking longer. This is Athens, so it's going to take a higher price to make that worthwhile. You are getting some benefit for generating extra turns, but again, price is one of the big things here that's going to do it. That's going to help. So if you are the higher price you get, the more better return on investment you get for the supplemental lighting. And that's one of those things. The more product you can produce, if you're getting a higher price, then it's more beneficial and it's probably worthwhile doing. If you are generating a higher amount of product and your price goes down, it's going to be less worth. It's not going to be worth doing because your costs are going up and the price you're getting is going down. So this one of the things where you've really got to look at the market. You've got to understand what's happening on the cost side, and you got to understand what production side, what's happening, and how that sort of facilitates or looks at towards a price. Because again, like I said earlier at the beginning, if you are putting in pricing, if you're putting in lighting and you're increasing quantity drastically for your area, and the price goes down because of that, then you probably just shot yourself in the foot and your ROI just went down. If you are producing extra quantity through LED lighting because you're getting more turns and you have a market for it, that's not really not hurting and your price, or you can get better prices in some places, then now it's beneficial and your ROI goes up because you have that extra market or you have those extra product you're selling potentially at the same or at a higher price. So again, that's what this shows. It shows the area that you're in and price and quantity do make a big impact with respect to. So this isn't a one size fit all with respect to you look at this and, hey, you know what? If I get $1.75, I should be producing in Athens, Georgia lettuce. Well, that's not the case, especially if you're only getting $1.50 and you're not getting that 175. So again, that's one of the things to really think about as you're going through this. What is the price you're going to be getting? How much you're going to produce? And then what are your costs? If we looked at Fresno, California, really Fresno, California, for lettuce, there was given electricity costs and the amount of sun they got, they received in the area. Really, there was no point that they were seeing a $2 a head of lettuce, a really high prices made it profitable. But by and large, the NPV never turned for these areas for putting in LED lighting, and that's just the function of the electricity costs were higher, and there was higher production. This didn't pay off. So again, the amount of sunlight they received, you weren't using the lights enough, and you weren't generating a high enough profit or the increased turns to make it worthwhile. So again, this is one of the things we're really looking at those three things: the amount of turns you're going to get, the cost of lighting, how much you're going to use them, but also the price you're going to get in the market. It's really going to tell you if these are viable options to do. Same thing for Redding, California. Again, we have that high sunlight areas. We have high electricity costs comparatively to other places. And, it just really doesn't make sense in those areas unless you're getting a real high price. In this case, for the $32,500, if you're getting $2.25, it makes sense. If you're in the 250 watt LED at $225, it makes sense. Anything less than that, you're not really. So again, if you're not getting a sort of the top of the line for your product, then it's not going to make sense in some areas. This is Eugene, Oregon, where we have less lights, less sunlight. So again, pretty much here you can do a lower price to get a positive NPV. So compared to what we saw in California, where it was purely red, we're seeing here is almost purely black because of the amount of turns you can get extra, because you're going to be using the lights to offset the lack of sunlight. So again, in areas where you have less sunlight, it's going to pay off quicker. That's just the nature of the beast, and that's just the thing you really need to think about is where you're at. So we have Athens, Georgia, where roughly you need $1.50, $1.75 to make it work. You have California where you need $2.25 to make it work, and you have somewhere like Oregon where getting $1 at the low end is still only one case of the 250 watt at 30,000, or the 500 watt at 30,000 units heads of lettuce. It didn't pay. Other than that, it's paying off. So again, where you're at is really going to be dictating what you need to think about here. Again, these are average numbers for electricity, average numbers for a lot of these things across the board here. Your numbers may be different, and it may change quite a bit depending on what you're doing production system wise, what you're doing electricity wise. But just think about those are the three big things: price, electricity costs, and then what are you going to do with respect to price wise. And how much you're going to use some sunlight. Those are the big things to think about. They're going to drive. Again, these don't take into adding in blackout cloth or other things, blackout shades or other things to minimize that light pollution. But again, even in Oregon here, if you got to do it, you're still doing quite a bit here. It's probably worthwhile across the board to do lighting just for the fact that what's happening, the amount of additional sales or that you're getting from this. So again, there's no one size fits all on this. Again, this is a quick overview of economics lighting. I can go into detail. There's papers here that go into detail better with respect to that show these things. Your costs are going to differ. There's nothing I can put out there that is going to show you your exact cost. We put budgets online. People take them as gospel. They're not. They're one thing. They're a guide. So the things we're doing here, guiding you with respect to things to think about. You need to be looking at price. You need to be looking at the price you're getting for your product. The amount of turns you're going to extra because you're using lighting, is it worthwhile? And the amount of sunlight you have to meet that daily light intensity you need are things you really need to think about. What are your electricity costs? They vary considerably from city to city, town to town, state to state. You really got to think about what electricity costs and what are those things. If you're going to burn lights or for 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day, then are you getting that payback for those costs? And then differences in outdoor sunlight with respect to what's going on. Where are you? It depends on where you're at in the country. Some areas are going to be a lot more worthwhile compared to others. If you're in the South, Eastern United States, it's probably not as worthwhile compared to if you're somewhere in the Northwest, where you get less sunlight on a daily basis or on a light intensity basis. So, those are some big things to think about. I didn't want to go into too much detail because a lot of this depends on what your costs are, what your things are. But I did want to give you some things to think about. Couple papers that are out there that we've got. There's one on greenhouse lighting externalities that I'm welcome to send you if you'd like it. That one is looking at what do people think about the light pollution. I keep harping on light pollution. I think that's going to be one of the biggest downsides as people increase and put in LED lighting and other types of supplemental lighting. That if you're not cognizant of your neighbors, if you're not cognizant of what their thinking is, what they're feeling about what you're doing, it will cause problems. They will go and there will be regulations that will be imposed on you. There will be lawsuits. There will be those type of things. And there are cities out there, not just the one I showed you that was in Leamington. There's places in the U.S. that their municipalities are imposing lighting restrictions, and they may not can get you on your current production, but they can get you on expansion. And that's what's happening in some places, that they want to they won't allow people to expand unless they go back and fix the issues with the light pollution that's happening on their current production. So really need to be thinking about that and how that's going to impact your neighbors and how that economically is going to impact you. So is it worthwhile? Probably need to put in those blackout shades. How does that impact your profitability there? Other things, consumer preference. There's a paper we had on that looking at LED information, trying to say, hey, if we give people information about how the good things about putting in supplemental lighting, does that impact consumers' opinion? And the answer is really not that much, except for negative information. If there's negative information out there, it will detract from someone's willingness to pay or willingness to purchase your product. So again, everything's all good until something bad in the press comes out. When something bad in the press comes out, now then I'm affecting your profitability on the production side. On the retail side, because I'm going to not want to buy your products if you are have something with respect to this causing the negative, such as light pollution. With respect to what's happening on that greenhouse lighting calculator, I think that's something that would be really important for a lot of people to look at. Because what that does is that is a calculator that allows you to do different things. So you can look at different crops. We have tomato and lettuce, the two we have here. You put in the one you want. So let's just say tomato. You put your desired yield. That's my shrinkage. Your location. There's a lot of different locations. Here's all the locations we did with respect to looking at. So if we did Portland, Maine, and then we said what kind of lighting system, then we can submit details, and it gives us an idea of what the net present value is, the retail price, different retail prices for tomatoes. You have your no lighting and net present value, your lighting, and then we all the way over here to our 10% NPV discount rate. So again, it gives you an idea of different discount rates. It gives you different things, what's happening here, and whether worthwhile or not. So again, there's a lot of cities here that you can look at and you can play with different lighting structures or different lighting fixture types to get an idea of how worth it. Here's looking at New York City. Again, we're looking at now some really a positive here because of the lights. Is going to be the supplemental light is going to be used quite a bit to increase turns. Here, with respect to tomatoes, how much we're going to get here with respect to, and then we start moving, and you'll see things. Again, it's still positive here for New York. If we move to places with a lot less sunlight, where we go back to Athens here, again, what you'll see is it becomes negative. That's there, 35,000. It's positive. We go to 30,000. We start seeing some negatives pop up. So this tool is really cool. And it allows you to sort of all the things that I sort of talked about. You let you play with it, and you can look at things somewhere so close to you to get an idea of what exactly we're at, and understand sort of a little bit better in your area. Because again, we've already built in all the electricity stuff for these areas. We've built in a lot of things. We don't have blackout shades input in this. That would be something to be additional to think about. We have a lot of the costs that you would think about, whether it be the LED lighting cost, electricity cost, all those costs built in here to get an idea of what's going on. Again, if it's somewhere and you're looking at this way up here and you're really positive, that's a good indication it's probably worthwhile. If it's really negative, it's probably not. If it's somewhere in the middle and it's negative 37 to 28, again, that may be somewhere you have to think about it and really have to think, is this worthwhile for me to do if we're on the border of positive, negative? Again, like I said, there's no one size fits all, but this is a calculator that can help you in those respects. So again, quick overview. There's a lot here. There's a lot of things in detail that we can go through, but I think the biggest thing here is looking at this calculator, this MPV calculator, and for you to go to and play with if you're interested in understanding what's happening in your area and then making decisions, help you make decisions from this. It's probably one of the best tools we've come out of the on the economic side that's come out of this is this this MPV calculator, or crop calculator, to let you know what's going on in your areas. So with that, I mean, I'm open to questions. Again, that was a lot of information, I think, very quickly. But again, this calculator, I think, is a big part of this for people to understand what's going on in their areas.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for the presentation. Very interesting. If anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand with a reaction and we can let you talk. Or you can send the written question through the Q&A box down there as well. Okay, we're not seeing any questions from the different participants here. So thank you again, Dr. Campbell, for your presentation, and thank you everyone who joined us today. Just a quick invitation. We are conducting a Qualtrics survey with Project LAMP as well, and I would like to share it with everyone here on the chat. You can access it there at the link if you want to participate, or if you know someone who might be interested in participating, please do so as well. And I would like to invite everyone as well for our next webinar, which is going to be on July 30th. And Jennifer Bolt and Kel Harvick from the USDA ARS are going to be presenting on adding CO2 to increase light use and virtual grower, which is another CEA software. So thank you so much once again, everyone, for participating today. And thank you, Dr. Campbell, for the awesome presentation. Thank you.